How's it going, everybody? I am just kind of messing around with Maya and trying to learn. I got this new thing, this guy right here, and I'm just kind of messing around with Maya at this point, just sort of figuring out the hotkeys that I need and stuff for it. So this is going to be probably a boring stream, but I'm also thinking about starting a new project. So I figured it'd be a good opportunity to kind of work on this thing, get the hotkeys all assigned, and get used to using it. I used to use one of these like years and years ago, back when it was called the Nostromo. It was made by Belkin, and then Razer bought it. And I just remember I have really fond memories of using it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was amazing. And I felt like I was just like a super fast modeler, or just in general working with Maya. So I've been kind of itching to get one again. So I think that's kind of going to be what this stream is just me um, figuring out hotkeys and, kind of working on a new project a little bit too. So yeah, I think I'm going to be kind of probably moving pretty slow as I'm figuring this out and just kind of, yeah, just kind of figuring stuff out while I'm modeling. I'm also streaming on Twitch for the first time, so I'm kind of experimenting with that a little bit too. So yeah, I'll just see how it goes. Nice chill evening. So I have this little scene set up here. Usually in Maya, whenever I want to do something like pretty much anything I want to do, I usually just throw a little guy in there, right? So I kind of get a sense of proportions and how things are going to fit into space, just like a proportional reference. You know how big to make doors, and you know how like tall to make like desks and chairs and things like that. It just helps having some sort of human size thing in there for scale. And then I just have a little toon shader kind of built up. So I'm just probably going to be modeling very slowly and just kind of figuring out the scene. I have a few different scenes here that I kind of just generated with Midjourney. So I'm not really going for any of these in particular. I do like what's going on there with that bed. And I think I'm more wanting to do like a scene like this where it feels like you're in the room, right? Or you're in the spaceship rather than like an isometric view like that. I really like these isometric views. But you're kind of really restricted with your rendering angle. Obviously, you only really have one option for a rendering angle when you're doing things like this. And I like that. I think it's good for you to give yourself restrictions and rule sets and things like that when you're working on any sort of creative project. But when I'm being sort of experimental and creative, I want to be able to move my camera around and sort of experiment with different things. Now, that doesn't mean that I might end up with something that's like an isometric view, right? I might end up with something like that. But for the most part, that's not really what I'm going for there. So yeah, let's just kind of start modeling, and I'm going to be assigning keys to this Tartarus as I go. Whoops. And do I have an undo? That's something that I need. I think that is undo. Okay. So yeah, I'm still kind of I'll assign a hotkey and then I'm kind of figuring out where did I assign that hotkey. So it's definitely a learning process. And um, like I said, I had one of these years and years ago, and I really sort of enjoyed it. And I'm trying to remember how I had the hotkeys set because I do not. And I just have like a basic. Um, I'm just going to apply this basic tune shader to everything for now. Right, just trying to get this height about right. And then I'll kind of tweak it. To be honest, I'm not absolutely sure what I'm doing here. Where's my shift key? My main purpose of this stream was just to kind of honestly just to kind of chill and learn this this Tartarus thing. Like I said, I have really fond memories of using one of these way back in the day. So I'm hoping that I'm not remembering incorrectly. Right, and I do occasionally need to remember where my hotkeys are. So just to show you what I have so far with this thing, by default, this thing has kind of like a WASD format. So it's meant for gaming, obviously, but trying to use it for 3D modeling. So I have my WER keys right here. So this is basically translate, rotate, and scale. And then my G key, which just repeats the last action that you did. Up here I have Control B is bevel, Control E is extrude. 1 and 3, so this is like unsmooth and smooth preview. I have shift and control, right? Because I normally control those with my pinky on my normal keyboard. This is undo, so I have to remember that undo is just right below my ring finger. And then alt is the right key here, which is basically down. So that's alt. So I'm not sure if I like this layout. I'm just trying to get used to it. Like I said, I do need a delete key. And I think I'm going to make this my delete key. So just to show you how to program this thing. And I think I'd like to do a review on this at some point after I kind of get used to using it. I'm going to make this my delete key. So just click that key, go to keyboard function, and then I can click delete and save. So now that's my delete key. So bevel. Right, and I'm not super concerned, I think, with like Ngons and stuff right now. This is just going to be like a toon render, so yeah, I'm not really concerned about Ngons, I think, for the time. I'm not a fan of how bright this looks. right? When you render it, it's not so bright. So, and yeah, and I think maybe we can just tweak the shader a little bit here. Tweak the tone map. See, I think that might be the highlight. Yeah, I think something like that is what I'm aiming for. And right now I'm just putting a base material on everything, but I will change it as I'm modeling it. So I was kind of browsing around on Twitch last night, just kind of looking in the creative streams. And I kind of wandered into a DJ stream, and he just said hi, so I said hi back and started talking to him. And just kind of talking about like how difficult it is to get a lot of people to watch your streams in something like this. And he was like, he's like, what we do is pretty boring. Like if you're a creative person, unless you're doing like a time lapse or something, it's kind of boring, right? Like there's not a lot to look at. And I kind of agree with that. We do, yeah, it's kind of boring what we do. So that's why a lot of people don't don't always get a lot of views on streams like this. But I think I'm trying to do this more as a way to keep motivated, to motivate myself to work on new projects. So that's kind of my goal here. I think that's my goal anyway. I'm just trying to build out a very simple scene here. Hi, Minzy. How's it going? Just having a chill night, figuring out some new gear. I have a new keypad that I'm trying to learn how to use. And I feel like it's a good opportunity to play around with a new project as well. So that is what we're doing. I'm not super concerned with like topology or anything right now. I'm just trying to make some cool art, some cool art at the moment. And some pixel art. Control D, I need a duplicate function. I think, do I have a duplicate function? I don't. Let's make... Let's make this one Control D. Duplicate. No, that wasn't it. Duplicate. There we go. Duplicate. Oh wait, I learned a new one the other day too. Shift S. So Control D, duplicate, and then Shift S or Control S. No. Thought it was Shift S. It's supposed to repeat your duplication, so I'm just not sure if I have the right. Oh, Shift D. That's it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't have to worry about topology. I think it's something that everybody needs to learn, but it's not required if you just kind of want to jump in and start learning how to 3D model or just learn how to create cool scenes like this. You don't necessarily need to. I think just practicing it is great experience, right? So in my environment as a teacher, and I'm trying to teach people how to 3D model, I have to put a lot of emphasis on these things because I think it's important for them to learn it. But I think if you're just wanting to have fun with 3D modeling or just have fun in 3D in general, then just don't worry about it, right? Just jump in and start modeling stuff, start making stuff, and then as you sort of um, get into it more, right? As you start doing more cool things, you'll just sort of learn new techniques and stuff. So I think we need another light. So I'm just going to duplicate that light. Just kind of move it. So yeah, my last stream I was kind of, or my last couple streams, so I was kind of experimenting around with toon shading and pixel art, and I just think it works. But it would work a lot better if we were doing something that was like intended to be pixel art, you know, rather than just like taking something that we already did, making it pixel art. So that's kind of my goal with this project, is to just do something. Whoop. To do something that we have the intent of making it pixel art. And I'm also learning this controller, this keypad, which is a whole new learning curve. So that's undo. There we go. It's not easy. That's for sure. I think it's good to challenge yourself with stuff like this, though. I think I'm going to keep this up on the side here, just so I can kind of keep track of what my keys are. How small can I make this? Let's put this guy like right here. So let's see, duplicate, Control D. Undo. It's especially on the stream, it's tough to kind of learn a new thing, right? Because you guys get to see me struggle. It is pretty comfortable, and so I was saying before years ago when I was in college, I used this thing, but back then it was called it was made by Belkin. It was called the Nostromo. And it looked like this guy right here. And, you know, I think this is the original one. This is kind of the one that I had here. And I could be remembering it, you know, I could be remembering it differently, right? But I just remember having a really enjoyable time using it, like hotkeying it and learning to model with it and just speeding up my workflow. And I kind of just quit using it for a while and never went back to it. And I still think about it sometimes. I'm like, man, I really wish I, you know, could find something that could serve this purpose. And eventually Razer bought it and they called it the Razer Nostromo. And then eventually they added another line of keys to it. and now it's called the Razer Tartarus, which is this guy. So I'm just, having an attempt at trying to learn how to use this thing again. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I hope it goes well. It's just, I'm trying to like retrain a lot of my muscle memory over the years of just using a normal keyboard. But I think that once I get used to it, it will really speed up my modeling process, because all your fingers are, all your keys are sort of bound. You don't have to move your mouse around as much, and you don't have to move your fingers around as much, and that might not seem like a lot, right off the bat. Like, it might not seem like that adds a lot of time to your workflow, but when you start to multiply that, right, a few seconds here and there over the course of a big project, that ends up taking you, adds up to hours, or minutes and hours and so on. So if you can get used to using hotkeys rather than like coming up here and using all of your menus all the time, it really speeds up your workflow. And that's basically what I'm trying to do here, is just learn how to use this thing so I can speed up my workflow. And also, it's just kind of a way to motivate me, right? So like I've been kind of slacking lately with my personal projects, and I think it's just a way to kind of stay motivated. Same with streaming. Like, the whole reason I've been kind of wanting to stream lately is just to sort of stay motivated. And, this isn't a super difficult project. I think this is going to be just like a chill project to work on. So it's just the perfect opportunity to kind of learn how to use a new instrument. Basically, that's basically it, right? Like, it's learning, if you're a musician, and you're switching. This is like switching from the guitar to like the banjo, right? It's just a different instrument. And it's going to take time, right? It's going to take time to figure it all out. So I apologize if it's a boring stream tonight, but hey, it's got me working on a project, so that is about all I can ask for. So I'm just looking at my reference here and trying to like mimic a lot of the shapes that I have going on in here, like this guy right here. I like the sort of file cabinet look, or folder, I guess, that this thing has. So the main thing right now, honestly, is just like my finger placement. Yeah, I think it's just like any other talent. Like I think there's trying to figure out the right words, the right way to put this. But I think there's value in like doing your own thing, right? There's value in like doing, like I have students a lot that obviously like to draw like anime characters, and it's a very sort of basic style, right? It's like when you draw things in a certain style, they're like a dime a dozen, right? And I have a lot of students who really enjoy drawing in that style, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I encourage them to draw in that style if it makes them happy. But you should also put yourself outside of your comfort zone and learn new things as well. So, um, if you get stuck in something, right? Like if you get stuck in one style, like you never really develop your own style. And the only way to sort of get your own style over time is to um, just learn and grow and get better, and eventually your own style will sort of come out of that. Like if you learn how to use a keypad, I'm struggling here. If you learn how to like draw from life, for example, like even though you have like a very stylized anime character sort of style that you like to draw in, if you learn to draw from life, you'll eventually sort of just become a better artist, and you'll eventually get your own style will just come naturally, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? You don't have to don't go searching for your own style. Just try to become a better artist, and let it just come naturally. It's kind of a convoluted way of saying things, but eventually I'll get good enough at this where I don't have to look at the keys. Let's move this guy over here for now. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Like definitely study, but don't neglect your own like personal passion projects. Like learn new things, but also make sure that you're making time to just do things for enjoyment. And I think just by you're already sort of like ahead of the game because you're willing to sit here and watch me struggle with this, right? Like, um, I think the fact that you're willing to sort of do this on your downtime, right? Like watch streams and watch other people work in their downtime. I think that says a lot, right? That says that you're not just doing your schoolwork and then forgetting it as soon as you get home, right? You're doing it out of enjoyment, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and not just so you can get a grade in a project or something. But I think little projects like this are a lot of fun because they don't, you just kind of like, it's basically just a bunch of cubes, right? Like, or just a bunch of primitive shapes. Like, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Um, but you just sort of get a chance to use your imagination and play around with shapes. And if you ever want me to take a look at what you're working on, I would love to. I would be happy to. Shoot me a message on Instagram, or I don't know if you can message in YouTube. Yeah, just look me up on Instagram. I'd love to. That goes for anybody. If you'd ever like a quick critique or just want to share your work. I've been thinking about maybe making a Discord, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. Actually, I'm going to just create a new object. I want something that's a slightly different shape. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to learn. Are you coming off of using Blender, or are you just new? Are you using, like, is Maya your first sort of 3D software? Or do you have any experience with Blender? I don't have anything against Blender. I think it's awesome. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was a teacher, right? Like if I was a freelance artist, I would absolutely be using Blender. But we have to sort of teach Maya. Most universities, most institutions will teach Maya as opposed to Blender. And it's just what I'm used to. But Blender is also an amazing, amazing piece of software. And I do all kinds of different work too, right? Like this whole like just piecing things together with sort of primitive objects is kind of a new thing for me. I'm usually more into like sculpting characters and doing all kinds of crazy details and stuff and doing like weird sculptures. Um, that's more along the lines of what I'm used to doing. But let's see. I want to take. But I have a lot of fun with this stuff. All right. What's going on? Control. It's down here. Okay. From what I understand, Blender is a lot more like plug-in heavy. Like a lot of to do a lot of things in Blender, you need to like download add-ons. From what I understand, again, I'm not like a super Blender user, but that's kind of the way that it seems to me when I look up Blender and how people do things. It kind of seems like it's very heavily reliant on add-ons. See, how do I want to do this? Come on. What is my undo? There we go. And I try not to be an elitist about, Blender or Maya, but I know a lot of people who have used both in the industry, and most of them, it's a pretty solid consensus that Maya is just better in many ways. But that's not to say that Blender isn't an amazing piece of software. I mean, the great thing about Blender too is like the community. There's a lot of YouTube videos and YouTube tutorials for Maya out there, but there's a lot for Blender. There's like way more for Blender. Blender is used in a lot of smaller, like indie studios use Blender, but mainly if you're looking at a big studio, any large game studio, they're going to be using Maya, but they will. There's a lot of like little game studios, independent game studios out there that will use Blender, and again, it's just because it's free, right? It's free and cheap, and um, that's huge, right? You could pay you could pay hundreds of dollars a month to use Maya, or you could use Blender. And again, if it were me, I would be using Blender, right? I would not be wasting my money on something like Maya. But yeah, like there are some small studios out there that will use Blender, and and I think that's great. But usually the big studios are all going to be using Maya. Oh, jeez. There we go. But I think the key thing to keep in mind when it comes to like using Blender or Maya or whichever one that you're using, again, it sort of goes back to like you need to be willing to challenge yourself and try new things, because most of it's like very conceptual, right? Like whether you're using Maya or Blender, it's very conceptual in the sense that the concepts work in any program, right? Like any app. Um, in every app that you're using, you need to not have n-gons, right? In every app that you're using, edge flow, especially if you're like doing a character, like topology and edge flow is important. So a lot of the rules sort of apply to any program, no matter what you're using. Um, so at the end of the day, just learn how to model. It doesn't really matter what software that you're using. If you're doing it on your own and not at a college or university, just dive into whatever you can. Um, for for us, like whenever you're, we most universities, most colleges pay for Maya because it's the industry standard, and you have to use it, right? Like there's not really any exceptions. I mean, some teachers might let you do something different. Um, but my take on it is, as a student, you get Maya for free, and it's normally hundreds of dollars a month or whatever. And sure, I'll save. So why not take that opportunity to learn it if you can learn it for free? Right. Blender's always going to be free. You only get Maya for free for a limited time. So why not? Oh, did I just close? I just closed Maya. I hit the wrong hotkey. But yeah, my point is just if you're a student and you get access to Maya for free, take the time to learn Maya for free, right? Blender's always going to be free. So after you graduate and you want to keep working on it, then go jump into Blender. But otherwise, if you're getting it for free, you might as well take advantage of it. I feel really sloppy working with this keypad. I know it'll get better, but right now it's like learning to model all over again, which is even like it can be more difficult, right? Because you're trying to break habits, break muscle memory. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. Like I said, there's lots of guides out there, lots of YouTube videos on how to switch from Maya to Blender. Um, so as long as you try to learn the concepts, right, you'll be fine switching to Blender. Ideally, right, you'll get a job and you'll have Maya, right? They'll use Maya. So ideally, it won't be a problem for you, but um, it may be. And there's also Maya Lite, Maya LT, I think, or they have like an indie version of Maya that's a little bit cheaper as well. So you could consider using that as well. Let's see how this looks. Looks pretty cool. I think my shadows are a little too dark. I don't like. There we go. So yeah, overall, I would say just focus on learning the concepts, right? Um, learn how to deal with ingons, learn about topology and edge flow and things like that. And like what I'm doing here, you can do that in any app super easily. You might fumble around a little bit at first, but um, yeah, you can learn this stuff in pretty much any app. Hmm. think I would kind of want to put like a little couch or a bed or something over here. Um, Kind of thinking about the floor right now. So, like maybe some floor panels. Some floor tiles. If you don't mind me asking, Minzy, do you have a plan for like what you want your concentration to be? Like, do you want to be a modeler or animator, or you want to work in games? That's always a big thing, is trying to nail down what you want to do. I know it's tough whenever you're in college because you kind of want to do a little bit of everything. But I think the sooner you can kind of nail down a specialization, the better off you'll be. And it doesn't mean you can't switch, right? It's not going to be set in stone. You can always switch specializations. You know, if you want to dive into character modeling and you do character modeling for a while, and then you decide it's not for you, it's fine to kind of switch and do something else. But I think the sooner you can just kind of sort of dedicate everything to a specific field, like whether it's animation, uh, modeling, character modeling, environment modeling, or prop modeling, or like VFX or dynamics or something like that. I think it's always a good idea to kind of nail down a specialization to focus on. Character modeling. Well, um, then yeah, then go for it. The one thing that I would say about character modeling is that just be sort of, this is kind of a hard thing for a lot of people to hear, but just be sort of aware that most studios, especially smaller studios, but also like larger studios, usually only have like a handful of character modelers on their team, right? Those jobs are really hard to get, from what I know anyway. Those jobs are kind of difficult to get, because there's just not as many people needed to do character modeling. If you think about like a game or even a feature film, there's like maybe 10 maximum characters in a game or a feature film that are like the main, like the heroes, right? The main sort of focus of everything. So there's a lot of work that goes into like those, I'd say like 5 to 10 characters. And usually like 1 or 2 people will do those 5 to 10 characters. Whereas like props and like models and assets and things like that, there's usually like a whole team of environment modelers. So in order to be a character modeler, you have to be really good. You have to kind of be on the top of your game. So I would learn ZBrush. You know, depending, even if you're looking for stylized characters versus realistic characters, I would definitely take the time to learn ZBrush or some sort of sculpting software, and that's very important. But I feel like a lot of people sort of get disappointed when they want to be a character model, including myself, because when I was fresh out of college, that's what I wanted to do. And those jobs are just hard to find. And I think you just need to be mindful of that and have a backup plan, right? And a lot of character modelers, from what I understand, is they get in as a they get in as some other like a environment artist or a prop modeler, right? And then once they get experience, they'll slowly like work their way up to do character modeling. I always I always feel super weird with some of the saying some of the names in YouTube. Faye's Curious, because I don't know how to pronounce them. I wish you could like just have like a little nickname besides your name. You know, whether you're in Twitch or in YouTube. Because we all have like our YouTube handles, right? On GGFX. But it always sounds weird when I'm in a chat and I say, I say something and they're like, "Hey, GGFX." I'm like, "That's not my name." But I get it, right? It's probably just the old man in me, right? The boomer in me. But it would be cool if YouTube added a feature where you could just have like in parentheses like your nickname or what you want to be called, right? It doesn't have to be your name, because a lot of us have channels that just we don't feel like that's our identity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, how you doing tonight, FaZe? I am trying to learn how to use a new piece of gear. I have this thing and I'm trying to assign my hotkeys to it and learn how to use it effectively, right? And I'm kind of struggling here, if I'm being honest with myself. It's retraining a lot of muscle memory. But other than that, while I'm doing this, I'm trying to learn this, or trying to work on a new little toon shaded project. in the process. I need to get that to emit light somehow. I guess I could make let's duplicate another light here. And we're going to make this one blue, a little bluish. And drop the intensity. I think we need to make our material highlight bluish. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, you want to be a character modeler, definitely learn ZBrush, and it's fairly inexpensive. It used to be very expensive, but I can't recommend it enough. And I'll probably do a live stream with ZBrush soon, where I'm just working in ZBrush. But it's part of the Maxon suite, so Maxon 1. I think it's like $60 a year for students. So buy education, educational license, student. That I guess you have to no, there's definitely a link you can click on somewhere. I don't know why it's not letting me click on these. Anyway, go to this website. I don't know why I'm not finding it. Maybe watch the video here. I think it's either $60 or $100 a year, and you get Cinema 4D, which is awesome. It's another 3D package like Maya or Blender. You get Redshift, which is like a GPU renderer, which is really cool, and you get ZBrush, which that in itself to me is worth the $10 a year or whatever that you would pay. So if you want to do character modeling, I highly recommend doing something like ZBrush. There's also Mudbox, which you get for free. It's Autodesk, so you can also sculpt with Mudbox. And Mudbox is also a great piece of software. Nothing wrong with Mudbox. However, they rarely update it, right? It's rarely ever updated. It's a pretty simple app, and if you know how to use Maya, you should be able to figure out how to use Mudbox. ZBrush, on the other hand, has a very sort of steep learning curve, and it's a lot more difficult to get the hang of. Whoops. But you can use Mudbox, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything for that. And you just get it the same way you get Maya. Yeah, and ZBrush is better, right? Don't get me wrong, ZBrush is better in every single way, but there's a lot of great artists out there that still use Mudbox just because of its simplicity when it comes to sculpting. There's a guy named Ian Spriggs who does these super highly realistic like portraits. Right, I don't know if you've seen him on ArtStation. That's like a self-portrait, so that's in 3D of him. And he uses Mudbox. So there's still a lot of artists out there that use Mudbox, even though ZBrush is a better. ZBrush can just do more, right? ZBrush, you can accomplish a lot more with ZBrush. It's a lot more features. Mudbox is great software, but it's a bit more simple in terms of how you use it. So yeah, that's something else you can look into. I'm really not sure what I'm doing here, guys. I'm just kind of making things up as I go, to be honest. So I just hope it's entertaining for you. But I appreciate the company. Do I like anything more than Maya? ZBrush. I love Maya. That's a hard question to answer. I love Maya. And earlier we were talking about like Blender and how if I didn't get Maya for free as a teacher, that I would use Blender rather than paying hundreds of dollars a month for Maya. I can't say that's entirely true though. I might still pay $100 a month for Maya, or hundreds of dollars a month for Maya. I absolutely love Maya. So it's hard for me to say otherwise. Again, that doesn't mean that Blender isn't any good. Blender's still a fantastic piece of software. But I've been using Maya for 20 years at this point. So it's hard for me to say anything else is better. But it's completely an opinion, right? ZBrush is awesome though. ZBrush is right up there in my opinion with Maya. Why are you? Yeah, I've been using Maya for the better part of 20 years. So it's been a long road with Maya for me. I also teach, and I would say that I've learned a lot over the years from teaching. So I have a lot of knowledge that's kind of just all over the place, and I think that's just the nature of teaching. And I can't figure out why is it just the fractions too high? Yeah, I think that was it. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's different for everybody. If you focus on just modeling, you could easily learn how to do this stuff in a few months. Um, I generally focus more on like sculpting and doing like really weird detailed art. So I'm kind of new to this kind of like a new avenue for me, experimenting around with like pixel art and tune shaders and stuff. And I'm having a lot of fun with it because you can make just cool pictures, right? It's really easy just to dive in and start making cool images. And you don't have to worry about like ingons and things like that too much. You can just kind of have fun with it. Right, which is basically what I'm doing now, is just trying to have some fun. And learn this new toy that I have, learn this new gadget. Thank you, FaZe. Yeah, I had a lot of fun working on that. Um, yeah, I kind of want to do more of those. I think that's, kind of what I'm doing right now too, right? Is doing something in a very similar vein, just more of like a sci-fi thing. But yeah, I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from those videos. And I'd love to do more of them. And, it's makes me feel great because that's the whole reason I created them, is just to kind of show people that you don't need to be an amazing modeler to just jump in and start creating stuff, start creating really cool stuff, right? Like I'm doing now. Let's try to make some floor tiles. But yeah, I really appreciate that. And I had a lot of fun making it too. So for those of you guys who don't know, that you guys are just popping in here, I'm trying to learn how to use this thing. So I'm programming hotkeys and stuff as I'm working. So I'm a little sloppy right now because I'm it's like I'm trying to model again for the first time. So if you're wondering why I'm moving so slow, that's why. Because I'm learning a new tool. I think I'm getting there, right? I think I'm getting slowly. It's just retraining a lot of muscle memory. Ultimately, I think it will make me a lot faster. It's just a lot to learn. And mainly it's just trying to keep my fingers in the right place. And remembering what I bound everything to. Thanks. I appreciate that. And yeah, I was telling Minzy earlier, if you guys ever want feedback on anything, I'm thinking about making a Discord channel. But if you guys ever want to have feedback, just look me up on Instagram or something. Um, and yeah, just shoot me a message. I'd be happy to see what you guys are working on. A realistic environment start to finish, yeah, I would love to do something like that someday. That's obviously a lot of work. Um, but yeah, I would definitely love to do a project like that someday. I'm going to take these two and combine them together, because I think what I want to do here is take make like an air vent, like right through here. Where is my shift key? It's so frustrating. All right. I don't. I should make one. And I think I'll do that soon. You know what? I'll do that right now. Let's make a Discord channel. If I can remember how. Add a server. Create my own. For a club or community. GGFX. Create. So obviously I've just made this, but so there's nothing there. But I'll go ahead and send you guys an invite. And I'll add more to it. How do I get out of streamer mode? No, that's not. I'm trying to figure out how to disable streamer mode. Here we go. All right, I got it. There you go. That's my new Discord. And I will add stuff to it soon. All right, so back to modeling. Oh, nice. You've done 4 or 5. That's awesome. Yeah, it's like modeling this way and creating environments this way isn't really conducive to like rendering realistically and doing like super realistic renders because of the whole like UVing every little thing. The best way to do like a big realistic environment, I think, is to um, like model one object at a time. Like model it, UV it, texture it, and then move to the next object. Right? It's I think that's the efficient way of doing something like that. You kind of have to have like a certain philosophy into how you're going to model something before you sort of decide to model it, right? Um, so whenever you're doing something super stylized like this, you can kind of just not care about what what it looks like UV and texture wise, because you're not going to UV and texture anything. But obviously, when you are UVing and texturing stuff, you have to consider all of that. I think that looks all right. I don't know if I'll keep that design of tiles down there. Oops. But I think that looks okay for now. I do want to do like a carpet too. So yeah, I think that's the big part of just why doing something like a realistic environment is just so much more work, because you do need to actually like model and texture every single object. Not every single object, but you have to do a lot. I teach a class at the college I work at we where my students do that. They model and texture a highly realistic environment, but generally by the time they get to that level of class, they know how to model well and everything. So the class is just the class time is spent just talking about like materials and shaders and texturing and things like that, and then that's sort of up to them how to model everything. So if you wanted to learn that, I think the first step to learning how to do a super realistic scene is to learn like the entire workflow of modeling, sculpting like in ZBrush or Mudbox, and then going into like Substance Painter and texturing, doing UVs. So I think if you just start modeling stuff like and learn the whole pipeline, like modeling, sculpting, generating normal maps, UVing, texturing, and rendering. Just start learning the whole pipeline and start making objects. I think that's the first sort of step um, to doing like a super realistic scene. Is just learn the whole pipeline, start to finish for individual objects. And that's not to say you can still model like a super realistic scene, like an architectural scene, without, you could do that stuff without texturing anything, right? But in my opinion, that stuff is always going to start to look very clean and just boring, right? The dirtier and the grimier stuff is, I think the more interesting it is. It has like a better story. I kind of like the idea of a odd shaped carpet, something like that. So sure, you can get away with like doing a super realistic scene without any textures or any UVing, right? But it's just going to look really clean and boring. Um, you, I like I like stuff to tell a story, and clean, brand new stuff doesn't tell a story because it's brand new. But if you were to, each individual object, make it look like it's got history to it, right? Like it's got a story. That is much more interesting to me than something that's just brand new. In my humble opinion. So yeah, if you want to do a super highly realistic scene, then start with like individual objects and learn the whole process, start to finish. And I would like to do some videos on that at some point on my YouTube where we talk about like individual objects all the way through the whole pipeline. So that might be the next thing that I work on. Might be a little thick. I keep forgetting to assign the material. Like this carpet might be something that I actually texture, add a design to or something. Yeah, so that's what I'm using is AI2 material. I can show you how to set it up real quick if you want. So basically, because it took me a while to figure all the nuances out. So if we add in a new AI tune here, so go to assign new material. AI tune. So how this works is first you need a directional light. So you can use like I wish the Arnold lights will work with the Toon Shader, but to get like this style that I'm going for, where it's just like solid colors all over the place, you have to use a directional light. You can kind of use a area light, but I've found the best results just come with a directional light. So that's the first step is use a directional light, just the Maya. Where is it? Directional light. Arnold may have a yeah. Yeah, you just use a normal directional light. If you want this sort of style, you can still use a Toon Shader and get sort of like soft fall offs on things. But if you just want like flat colors, you use a directional light. And then you need to come down to, I'll show you that here in a second, but let's just start by making the color. So let's change this color to, let's see, we'll do orange since this is kind of like blue and orange. So we'll make this one kind of like an orange color. And I have the edge turned on here. It's on by default. But in order to see this edge, you have to go into your render settings and go to Arnold Renderer, go to Filter, and set this to contour. Otherwise, you won't see the outer edge around it. And you can just, you know, mess around with like the opacity. And it is a post effect. You'll see it kind of pop in there after it's done rendering, like that. But that's how you turn your contour edge on. And then to get like your shading in your base and in your specular, what you have to do is, so for a tone map, we go to here and we're going to use a ramp RGB, an AI ramp RGB. You can use a regular ramp too. I don't think it makes a huge difference. And then this is where you're going to change like the tone. Set your interpolation to none. Right, and do a couple different gradients here. And then you're going to go back to the material and do the same thing for your specular. So just create a tone map, ramp RGB, and first you have to increase your specular amount. So what you have to do to get this to look right is, because you don't really want it to be reflective, right? You don't necessarily want it to reflect your entire scene like this. So you need to come down to advanced and turn down your indirect specular. And then do same thing for your tone map here. Set this to none. And just do a few different gradients in here. And then you can kind of dial in your roughness. Right, so if I'm doing the carpet's going to be pretty rough. So yeah, and then just tweak it until you get something that you're happy with. And that's basically it. So you just have to you have to plug in tone maps. Right, and I'll call this AI Tune Orange. And then I'll just delete that and add that to my carpet. There's also a lot of really good documentation in in the Arnold documentation. If you just look up like AI Tune, there's a lot of really good. I think there's videos in the documentation. Now I'm just thinking about how this part is bright. It's just because the lighting. Awesome. Thanks, Miguel. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from those videos, and I definitely want to do more like that. Maybe I'll do something like this at some point with like tune shading, building a tune shaded environment. And a couple people have asked me for realistic environments too, so I might do something along the lines of that. But you know, right now I'm experimenting with a couple different things. I'm learning this keypad, learning how to use this keypad here, programming in some hotkeys, and just sort of building out a new little environment here. I think I might make this guy like a cubby. Yeah, stoked that so many people have found that useful. That's the whole reason I made it. I wanted to show that you could do really cool stuff with just limited knowledge. And I did just make a Discord, Miguel, so it's brand new. Just made it during this chat. So if you're interested, there's my brand new Discord. There's nothing in it at the moment, but I'll add stuff tomorrow I have tomorrow off, so I'll go in and add some stuff tomorrow. I'm telling you, learning like to use different keys is a challenge. I'm slowly picking it up, but it's definitely a struggle. But like I said, like it will make me faster. Just at the moment, it's like retraining all my muscle memory. Do I have? Something like this couch over here where the guy is. And then my render will be like something like this, where so we got like a couch here. Maybe not quite this long, but you know, some pillows, some things like that. My stream may be struggling a little bit. I am going off of Wi-Fi. That's something else that I might need to work on. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, like a couch with some pillows and then a bunch of like computer stuff. And maybe like a bookshelf. Got some books up here. Something like that. Tell you what, I'm gonna stop streaming on Twitch because I haven't gotten a single viewer. On Twitch. So maybe that'll help my YouTube feed a little bit. Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I will add stuff to that tomorrow. Add some different channels. But I would love to see what you guys are working on. And I will also likewise share what I'm working on. Oops. So if you're wondering what this guy's doing in here, I just like to keep a human, scaled size human in my scene when I'm working, because it just gives me an idea of like proportions and scale, like how tall I should make my desks and the bed and things like that. I find that if you don't have a human or some sort of human scale thing, it could just be a cube. It doesn't have to be a model. But I find when you don't have some sort of human scale in your scene, your proportions get really out of whack really quickly. So that's what that guy's doing in there. If you're curious. So yeah, normally I would look for reference on Google. And that's normally anytime I start a project, especially if I'm doing something really realistic, right? I will spend a lot of time on Google looking for a good reference. And my students, I, that's like their first assignment for any project is to look for reference. And if there's a model of a hammer in the scene that they're working on, I want them to have pictures of hammers in their reference folder. So normally, yes, I do look for reference if I'm doing something realistic. Since I've been working on like these stylized scenes, I've honestly just been going to Midjourney and generating these AI images, and that's kind of my reference up into the point where I get where like the bad thing about AI is like it's it makes up stuff, right? Like a lot of the objects in the scene aren't like they're not based off of anything. It's just sort of like, there's no sort of rhyme or reason why they are the way that they are, which kind of works in like a sci-fi setting like this. But obviously, if you're doing something realistic, that doesn't work. Also, like proportions and like forms are really weird with AI, right? Like this kind of looks like it's flat like this way, but it also kind of looks like it's at an angle like that. So just you can't rely too heavily on AI, at least yet, just because it doesn't even know. Like, look at that chair. That looks like a torture device. Doesn't look like a chair. So you can't rely on it to like depict things realistically. So you definitely need to go and find your own reference if you want to model something that looks like a thing, right? Like if you look at this chair, there's no arm over there, right? So AI is not good at being logical with things. So yeah, I highly recommend using reference, finding reference. But in this situation, I'm just kind of using the AI reference and just kind of making things up as I go. And then when I'm ready to make a chair, right, I'll go and look up some references of chairs. So I get like I have like a better idea of what a chair looks like. So yeah, highly recommend using reference um, for everything as much as possible. Especially when you're doing character modeling. Minzy, I know that you said you wanted to go into character modeling. You have to use reference. I'm teaching a character modeling class right now, and that's like a big thing we put emphasis on. You can't rely on your brain to remember what a human face looks like, because it's funny, but like if this is what your brain thinks a human face looks like, right? So if you want solid proportions of like the nose and the ears and the bone structure, you have to look at reference images. You can't just rely on doing what your brain's telling you to do. So even in the case like this where I'm using AI as reference, it's still better than just sort of making things up off the top of my head. At least there's some sort of structure to what I'm looking at, and I'm not just making things up. And I find it like difficult to it's hard to just like make things up as you go. But if you have some sort of reference you can kind of look at and work on as you go, it makes a lot of your decisions a lot easier. So yeah, absolutely look for reference. It's super important. Um, yeah, I can't really stress that enough. Yeah, so I'll show you how I did it. So in Midjourney in Discord, you have to pay for Midjourney. I think it's like $10 a month. But I find it just like a great source of inspiration. And you go to one of these newbie channels, and you can just type in something like imagine sci-fi room spaceship interior pixel art. Type that in, give it a minute or two. and it'll generate like 4 images for you. So, AI is a big topic, and a lot of people in the art industry are against AI, including myself, right? I'm against it for a lot of reasons. But I think it's great for inspiration, right? And I'm not taking any of this and just like copying it verbatim. I'm just kind of using this as reference and using it as inspiration, right? So I just went to Midjourney and generated a handful of images like this with different prompts. And this is an app called PureRef, which we can talk about that too if you want. But then I just bring them all into this app called PureRef, and then you can just kind of zoom in and look around and kind of browse them all. So that's basically it. I just generated what's here, 9. So 9 different, 9, which each one has 4. So that's 36 different images. And I just brought them all into PureRef, and I can just keep them right up here in the corner of my screen and kind of look around. So that's what I did, and I like doing that for these projects because it's very just like flow state, right? Like you're not trying to copy anything verbatim. You're just trying to have a bunch of different images you can look at for reference. So, and this app PureRef is really cool because you can normally when you just have like a regular image viewer on your screen, if I like click on Maya, like that goes behind that window. But PureRef is really cool because you can right click, go to mode, and say always on top. So that way, even when you click off of Maya, you still have your reference image right there. It's a very cool app. It's very simple. It's free. They do ask you to donate, but you could just donate 0. So yeah, now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do next. So yeah, I love using AI just to kind of get inspired and generate just cool reference, inspirational stuff, especially when you're working on a scene like this. Now, it's also cool for just like getting ideas for individual objects too, right? Like you could put in something like imagine um, a medieval goblet, right? And it'll give you images of medieval goblets. Now, like I said, they probably won't be logically sound, right? There'll probably be some issues with them. But if you just want to make something up, then it's great. I don't think I'm ready to tackle blankets and pillows with this keypad yet. Could also do things like I like to always mess things up a little bit. So like pull this guy out a little bit, push this one in. Right, it's something even like a sci-fi scene. I think having like little random differences. I don't know how much it would add in a scene like this. It's all toon shaded. But I think just adding like little variations and little differences in all of your individual objects kind of sells the realism. Yeah, you can kind of see it with that one, but not so much over here. I don't really know what I want to work on next. Could do like a little overhead bin. Little overhead storage. I think I want to take this and move it in. I am slowly getting the hang of this keypad. but it's probably going to take some time. I think I like. I think it's always important, like where I had it before, like this. I like to see. I like to see like the gaps in between things. I think that's always like really important. And like if I'm looking at something like this, and you see all these nice crisp lines, you don't really get that whenever you just have like one object going through the other one, like this. I keep forgetting to apply the toon shader to it. Right, so you get a little bit of a line there, but I think moving it off a little bit so you can kind of see the gap. I think that's always important to have just like a little bit of space between two things, so you can let the shadows get in there. The cool thing about surface shaders are, so on this little plane right here, I have a surface shader. And there's really only two shaders I ever use. It's either the standard surface material or the surface shader. In this case, I probably need to add the Toon AI Toon up here because I do like using the AI Toon now. But the really cool thing about surface shaders is they don't receive any shadows or any lighting, shading, or anything like that. So if you like apply an image or something to a surface shader, you just get that image. It's like doesn't get shaded or anything like that. So a lot of times if you have like a background image or something you want to show, just do a surface shader, and then you can just apply your image to that. So I could go online here and just, or even let's do it in Midjourney actually. Let's do imagine pixel art of outer space. Let's see what we get. So the one thing about AI is it's not going anywhere, right? See, that's not really what I want. I just want like, so we might as well embrace it, right? Like, yeah, it sucks that it kind of steals jobs, but so does industry, right? So does robots. Um, but as artists we can use it to our advantage, right? Like there's always going to be people who cheat, and there's always going to be people who plagiarize, but us real artists, right, we can actually use this, and we can use it as a tool, and not just a way to plagiarize and cheat. Since the beginning of the art industry, right? Like for not thousands, maybe thousands of years, definitely hundreds of years, people have been stealing art, plagiarizing. It's never going to go away. That's something that's just always going to be. But you know, it's it is a tool that we can use. Pixel art of stars in space. I do actually like this one, if the planets weren't there. So yeah, you know, AI does suck in a lot of ways, but so I kind of like this one. Let's take this one and do variations. So let's do variations of 4. This one's actually pretty cool too, though. Let's do upscale 3. Right, and then I can open that in the browser. I will save that image. Do my desktop. Then I can add a file node. Having a brain fart. Where's my file nodes? File node. Just need to fix the scale on it. Right, so that's the cool thing about surface shaders, is that you can just apply an image to it and it doesn't get any sort of lighting information. It's just, you just see the image. Now we could also just put a toon shader on this as well. Actually, let me try something here. Let's put a toon shader on this. So I'm going to go to assign new material, AI toon, and I'm just going to use the emissive. So I'm going to turn my base all the way down. I'm going to go to emission, color, and plug in that file. Let's see if we can get it to emit some light. We can bump our emission weight up above 1, I think. Yeah. To make it a little bit brighter. It doesn't really look like it's emitting light though. So I might need to kind of figure out a different way to approach that. I kind of want this to have a ceiling on it. Take our lights, move them in here. With directional lights, it doesn't, their placement doesn't really matter at all. It's just a direction that the lights are coming from. So where they are located or their set size or scale or anything doesn't matter. I'm just moving them down because I think it's casting shadows. You can also turn the shadows off or just lighten them. That's too light. Yeah, the lighting is something I definitely gotta play around with still. I like it. I just got to figure out the whole lighting situation, because my lighting's kind of all over the place here. But it definitely looks cool. All right, I think that's where I'm going to call it for the night. And I might stream again tomorrow night. We'll see. But thanks for joining, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Join the Discord. I will add more stuff to it. I'll add in a link on my YouTube for it as well, just so anyone can join it. But yeah, you guys have a good night, and I will see you soon.